History is what makes a family. Biology and matrimony play a part, to be sure, but what most clearly creates and defines a family over time is its history of shared experiences. Families are constituted by stories which get endlessly repeated. Like the time long ago when Holly was driving her mother and younger sister over the Brooklyn Bridge into Manhattan one day, and her Karmann Ghia burst into flames. We marveled at that story again this past weekend, at their good fortune in escaping injury, and their good luck in attracting the attention of an Orthodox Jewish man who helped them out. Or the time when the minister who was to marry Holly's younger sister and her husband in their home showed up drunk and 4 hours late. Granted, they were in the middle of a blizzard at the time, but it turns out he was late mainly because he had been in jail. Or the time several years ago when Holly's brother was showing off his new jet boat at his cabin on a lake in Michigan, when he made a right-angle turn at 60 miles an hour and catapulted me, dressed in heavy wool sweater, corduroys, and boots, into the 50-degree water, nearly decapitating my young niece as I flew past. Holly was not amused, especially when she learned that her brother had done the same to their 83-year-old dad the week before. Along with the stories come family rituals, many of which have to do with food, such as donuts. Donut Plant on Grand Street when in New York, and Voodoo Donuts on 3rd Avenue when in Portland. By the way, if you happen to visit Voodoo Donuts, don't be seduced by the bacon maple bar, which sounds good but isn't. Go for the McMinnville cream instead. Families are defined by shared histories and common rituals. At the top of our order of service each Sunday stands a quote from William Ellery Channing, whose preaching in New York in 1819 inspired the founding of this congregation. The quote reads, "I am a living member of the great family of All Souls." At their best, religious communities enable us to answer religiously the same questions that our families enable us to answer personally. Where are we going? Is it scary? What happened? Can I have more now? Who is that? Like families, each religious community has, or needs to develop, a unique identity and distinctive way of life. The philosopher and novelist George Santayana once said that the attempt to have a religion without having a particular religion is like trying to speak a language without speaking a particular language. There is no such thing as religion in general. There are only particular religions, each of which has its own symbols, stories, rituals, and obligations. Every living and healthy religion, Santayana concluded, has its own special and surprising message. The vistas it opens and the mysteries it propounds are another world to live in, and another world to live in is what we mean by having a religion. What is our unique identity and distinctive way of life as Unitarian Universalists? Our world to live in. Here at All Souls, we have spent considerable energy on this question over the past few years. In part, the distinctive character of our religious community stems from the fact that we have the history we have, and we pursue the way of life we pursue. And no one else has or does either in quite the same way. Our liturgy is our liturgy, for example, and our common meditation is our common meditation. Beyond that, however, I would point to two defining distinctives of our congregation. One is where we begin as a religious community. Traditional religions begin with an ancient and supposedly divine revelation and asks how it makes sense in the modern world, only to discover that in many ways it doesn't. We, on the other hand, begin with everything we know about ourselves in our modern world and ask what it means to live a life of meaning and purpose in light of everything we know. We begin where we are and ask where we ought to go. The other defining distinctive of our faith, for me at least, is the role gratitude plays in our theology and ethics. Just as obedience is the defining discipline of Judaism, and love is the defining discipline of Christianity, and submission is the defining discipline of Islam, so gratitude, for me, is the defining discipline of Unitarian Universalism. Cast as a bumper sticker, we're the gratitude people. The hard truth is that some religions, like some families, are better than others. Some are forged by intellectual and emotional coercion and maintained by steadfast denial, while others use the rituals of shared experience to link the strength of what has gone before to the hope for what is yet to come. At their best, both families and religious communities create a sense of wholeness that is more than the sum of their parts. The challenge for Unitarian Universalism as a denomination is our tendency to think and act as though we are each a religion unto ourselves, each congregation developing its own rituals, and each individual determining his or her own spiritual way of life. In order to thrive in the years ahead, we need to have more and more in common, religiously speaking, both as individuals within a congregation and as congregations within a denomination. This is not to say that our way of life as a religious community is necessarily the best way or even the only way, but it is our way, uniquely and distinctly. The jury is still out as to whether Unitarian Universalism will continue to become less and less, or whether we can somehow forge a common commitment to become more and more, as I believe we have done here at All Souls. My hope is that whatever happens, future generations will say of us here at All Souls that at least we recognize the challenge and met it full on. Where are we going? Is it scary? What happened? Can I have more now? It's time for us to revisit our history and renew our sense of destiny. It's time for more and more. Amen. I love you. May God bless us all.